The rain hammered against the windows of the isolated cabin, each gust of wind rattling the frame like a skeletal hand trying to pry its way inside. Inside, Elias huddled by the dying embers of the fire, the flickering light casting dancing shadows that seemed to mock his growing unease. He'd sought refuge here, deep in the Appalachian Mountains, hoping to escape the city's noise and the gnawing anxiety that had become his constant companion. He'd found quiet, all right, but it was a quiet that hummed with something unseen, something watchful. It had started subtly. The feeling of being observed when he was alone, the rustling of leaves outside his window when there was no wind, the faint, almost melodic humming that seemed to emanate from the walls themselves. He dismissed it as his imagination, the product of isolation and stress. But the incidents were escalating. Last night, he'd found a crudely fashioned doll on the porch swing, its painted eyes staring directly at his window. He'd burned it immediately, the flames crackling with an unnatural intensity, the smoke acrid and choking. But the humming had grown louder, more insistent. Tonight, the humming was a constant drone, a low thrumming that vibrated through the floorboards and into his bones. He tried to distract himself with a book, but the words swam on the page, his mind consumed by a growing dread. He kept glancing at the windows, half expecting to see a face pressed against the glass, but there was only the storm, the rain, the endless trees swaying like dark sentinels. Suddenly, the humming stopped. The silence that followed was even more terrifying. Elias held his breath, listening intently. All he could hear was the rain, the wind, and the frantic beating of his own heart. Then a new sound emerged from the storm, a soft tapping, like fingernails gently scratching against the cabin's wooden walls. It started at the back of the cabin, then moved slowly, deliberately, towards the front. Tap, tap, tap. Elias's blood ran cold. He knew what it was. He'd heard the stories, whispered in hushed tones by the locals at the general store. Tales of the skinwalkers, ancient spirits that roamed these mountains, capable of shape-shifting and possessing the bodies of animals, even humans. The tapping was right outside his window now. Elias could see a shadow moving against the glass, a distorted silhouette that seemed to shift and change with every gust of wind. He scrambled back from the window, his chair scraping against the floor. He wanted to run, to flee into the storm, but he knew it was futile. Whatever was out there, it had already found him. The tapping stopped. Elias held his breath, his eyes fixed on the window. A moment of unbearable silence hung in the air. Then a single long, pale finger appeared from the bottom of the window, curling upwards, scraping against the glass. It was followed by another and another, until a whole hand was pressed against the window pane, its nails long and sharp. Elias screamed, a raw, primal sound that was swallowed by the storm. The hand began to tap again, this time with more force, more urgency. And as Elias watched in paralyzed terror, a face slowly began to materialize behind the hand, its features grotesque and inhuman, its eyes burning with malevolent intent. It was watching him, waiting. And then it smiled.